everyone, and good afternoon, and thanks for joining us for today's new Media Specialist Cadre. I am happy to be talking to you about inventory. Not everybody's favorite topic, but super important. I am recording this so that it will be there for you to reference later. Hopefully a few more people will join us, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So at the mere mention of inventory, this is what happens to many librarians. But it's not as difficult as you think, and you're going to really be glad you took the time to do inventory. It's going to clean up all kinds of problems in your catalog for you. So why are you going to do inventory? It's going to give you a snapshot of actually what's going on in your library. It's going to clean up your collection. It's going to help you analyze your collection. You're going to be able to identify areas of your library to weed and identify areas that need additions. So before your inventory, you want to batch update the Circ type of ebooks from Circ type regular to Circ type ebook. And you want to clear up your in-transit list. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to go into Destiny. And you would go there to, hang on. You would go to Reports and then Report Builder. And you're going to scroll all the way down to material type ebook, and you're going to click Run. So when you run this report, it's going to batch update any ebook that is Circ type regular and make it Circ type ebook. This is really important because ebooks don't have barcodes, and if we don't update them to material type ebook, they can get lost in an inventory, and we don't want to lose them. So we need to update them as material type ebook. And you're going to want to clear up your in-transit. Okay, I'm going to go back to my presentation. So what exactly, we're going to talk about what inventory does before I show you how to do it. Okay, what does exactly clicking Start New Inventory do? It accounts, it will, any copies that have been unaccounted for are going to remain unaccounted. Accounted for copies that fit the parameters of the ebook or the inventory that have a status of available or on hold become unaccounted for. These copies should theoretically be somewhere in your storeroom or your school or in your library, and you're going to need to enter these into inventory. You're going to account for them by scanning their barcodes. Accounted for copies that fit the parameters of inventory and that have a status of checked out, loaned out, on order, out for repairs, or in transit remain accounted for. So you already have information about these books and where they are. Copies that have previously been marked lost remain lost and accounted for. Scanning the barcode. Copy information for the 10 most recent scans will appear on the most recently accounted for list. If there's a problem with the barcode or the copy, an alert message is going to appear at the top of your inventory page. The copy status of any lost copy will change to available. Inventory deletes any library fine charged to a patron for the lost copy. So if Johnny lost a book and you marked it lost and assessed a fine in Destiny and you found it on your shelf during inventory, it will remove that fine. Okay, it will create a refund. Inventory checks in a checked out copy. It also creates a library fine if you automatically assess them for an overdue copy. I don't believe anybody automatically assesses them. We do not charge fines in our district for overdue books. Some setup tips. You're going to create a name that describes the inventory. This is for your reference only, but if you just do inventory FY21 and you're only inventorying the easy book section, that's not going to tell you anything, right? So I would say something like FY21 easy book inventory. I would not do a full library inventory at once. That's a little bit unmanageable. I would suggest setting up ones for individual areas. If you're in an elementary library, a fiction, a nonfiction, an easy book, and your biographies. Biographies will not appear in the nonfiction inventory. They're a special category. If you're middle school or high school, you're going to want to do things, you're going to want to do fiction, nonfiction, and your biography section. You're going to select your circulation types with intention, and I will show you exactly what that means. And unless you have very carefully and consistently use sublocations to describe your collection, leave them all checked. I highly recommend leaving them all checked. We had a media specialist who set up her inventory and she didn't include all of her sublocations, and she had many books coming up out of inventory, and she was confused by that, okay? And you're going to check the box next to shelf order. This is kind of what it looks like. So you're going to specify the copies that you want to inventory. I did this as a FY21 Easy Book inventory. The call number for Easy is E to E. You'll see that I selected circulation types Easy and regular, and I left as all sublocations. All copies meeting this above criteria are going to be set to unaccounted for, except for copies that have been seen on or before the date that you started your inventory. Make sure to only select your circulation types Easy and regular. The rest of these are not your books, right? You're not inventorying your reference books. You're not inventorying your AD materials, your ebooks, your media tablets, right? You can't inventory an ebook because there is no physical barcode to scan. So make sure it's just the Easy and the regular. If you leave your call numbers blank, Destiny is going to inventory everything in your library. I highly recommend not leaving your call numbers blank. If you wanted to do all of nonfiction, you would do 000 to 999.99. If you only wanted to do your 500 section, 500 to 599.99. Sorry, you don't need the anything after. So 500 to 599, 000 to 999. If you're doing fiction, it's F to F. We'll come back to this. These are some things that you can do with your inventory, but I want to show you how to start the inventory and take questions before I tell you what you can do when you're all done. I'm going to go into Destiny. And is this big enough for everyone to see? Try to make it big enough. So I'm going to say that this is going to be an FY21, let's say nonfiction inventory. I want to do call numbers 000 to 999. That is going to get everything in my nonfiction section except biography. That has to be a separate inventory because it is not a 3-digit number. Our biographies are under 92 in the school district, so you would have to set up a separate biography inventory for 92 to 92. Where it says circulation types, you're going to click Update. You're going to clear all. Why is that doing that? That's very strange. Hang on, let me try that again. It's confused. Start new. Let's try that again. FY21 nonfiction inventories 000 to 999. We're going to update our circulation types. That's better. Clear all. I'm going to select circ types Easy and regular. Press OK. Again, I'm going to leave all of my sublocations. That's really important because if I click Update here, you can see they have quite a few sublocations. And if I only had E Grove Park, that would be only the Easy books, right? We want to make sure that we have all of these selected. So any nonfiction book in any one of these sublocations will be in your inventory. It will give you fewer problems. All copies meeting the above criteria are going to be set unaccounted for, except copies that have been seen on or after today. If I click OK, it's going to say, are you sure you want to do this, start this inventory? And then you would say, yes, I'm going to do that. So as you can see, as of today, it is 15.58% complete. That is because some of the books in the nonfiction section of this school are already accounted for. You're going to come in here, you can scan one barcode at a time and account for. You want to check shelf order, right? That was that box. You're going to scan them one barcode at a time. And I know it's hard, and I know it's time consuming, but this is really, really important to give you the proper snapshot of what's going on in your library. Okay? Once you scanned all of your books and you're not 100% complete, you'll be clicking here and you can see copies that are unaccounted for and run a report. And then you look for those copies that will help you do that. Okay. So if I want to see that the copies that are accounted for, I'm going to click see details and it's going to show me, right? It was marked lost on April 4th, 2017. Anything that was marked lost stays lost until you delete it from your collection. When we're done with this, when you're done with your inventory, we're going to be talking about deleting lost copies because these books are showing as part of your collection. That's not helping anybody or anybody's collection, right? So, and you can delete copies marked lost on or before date. So I can see that there are things that were marked lost in 2016, 2017. These materials are not coming back. We need to wish them well and delete them from our collections. It's not helping us. So particularly because of the pandemic, I might delete all copies that were marked lost on or before December of 2019, right? That leaves anything that was lost in the pandemic lost, but anything prior to that, okay, is going to be deleted from your collection. We'll go back to progress details. Now, when you're all done, you're going to click close. Okay, when you're all done with your inventory, you would click finalize. Now, this is a really powerful tool. And when you're finalized, you need to mark all unaccounted copies for lost. Otherwise, your inventory did nothing. I'm not going to mark them all lost right now because we have 2,130 copies that have not been seen. So right now, I'm going to click ignore them and don't mark them all lost. Otherwise, her whole collection, her whole nonfiction collection would be marked lost. So I'm going to go ahead and finalize this. We can come back and view our in progress and completed inventory. She has no in progress, and you can view your completed. You can see, right? You can see when the last inventories were done. Now, I'm going to click show all. Scroll down. There has not been an inventory done at this school since 2019. They need to consider doing a full collection inventory to identify those materials that are missing, lost, clean up their collection, okay? The reason we do that is when we order, we then know what we have in our collections. So I come back to my presentation and where we're talking about title-wise analysis here. You can export your whole collection for analysis to TidalWave, which is the Follett ordering site. You can do this for Mackin and many of our other vendors. So you click catalog and then TidalWave, and then you can view your newest analysis. And this was my old school. You can see a snapshot of what's going on in that library. This was last year. You can see that the average age of the collection was 2007, which is fairly new for our district. 2000 is the average age of the collection. Okay, we don't have a ton of money to keep everything current. So anything above 2000, you're doing really, really well. We can see that my collection was 35% fiction, 65% nonfiction, which means I had heavily weighted fiction. It means we need to add, like that media specialist that's there now needs to consider adding more fiction. We're more heavily nonfiction. We're out of balance. And it tells me that what's new, what's aged, and it can drill down into different areas. You can do the same thing with Mackin. And I'll send you these slides. Right? And you can, this way, when you're searching Follett and Mackin, you can then upload your collection for collection analysis. And when you're ordering, it will tell you if it's already in your library, because you don't want to duplicate those books. And inventory, it always comes back to collection development. So after you're looking through your collection analysis, you're going to use reviewing sources to select appropriate materials for your grade level. You're going to look at the ALA Youth Media Award lists, SLJ Best of lists, outstanding science trade books for K-12. We need diverse books, and Our Story. Places like this, places that have reviews, and you're going to be adding high quality materials for your students. Remember, invest in sections where you weeded titles or where your analysis is showing deficiencies in your collection. And keep a consideration file at all times. I always had a purchase list going in Mackin and one in Follett or the vendor of your choice, so that when you hear about a book that you really want for your library, it's on that list. And when you have money, you're ready to go and spend that money. And it takes a lot less time because you've been doing the collection development all along. So I'm going to pause here for, I went really fast, 15 minutes, quick, down and dirty inventory, but I'm going to take questions.
Lisa, can you stop and start the inventory with no problem, or is there a button to push so you can come back to it?
So wherever you leave off is fine. You do not have to do inventory, and I don't think anyone can do inventory all in one sitting. Like that would be superhuman, right?
But it saves as it goes?
Right, it saves as it goes. And you can have more than one going at a time. So, didn't mean to do that. Hang on, let me get back to the meat. All right. So in here, I can have, if I can, here, I'm going to go back into admin and then inventory. Okay. I'm going to start new. So if I wanted to have an FY21 biography, and I'm going to do call number 92 to 92, I want to update my circulation types to regular and easy. And I'm going to click OK and yes. And then I'm going to start another one, and I'm going to do FY21 fiction, F to F. Update my material types, easy, regular. Okay. I'm going to press OK and yes. So if you can see, I can have many inventories going at one time. So if I'm going into the biography section and I want to do just the A's and the B's, let's say, I'm going to scan all the A's and all the B's, right? And then maybe I'm going to move over to fiction. So I'll click here and I'm going to start my fiction.
Okay.
So you can easily go back and forth between inventories, little bits at a time. It's completely fine to do little bits at a time. And if you check the book out, it's going to inventory it. If you check a book in, it's going to inventory it because Destiny will have seen it. Just to be careful though, if you have 2 inventories or 3 inventories going at one time, if you're in fiction and then you try to scan a biography book, it's going to beep at you and say out of inventory, right? You have to make sure you're in the correct inventory.
Okay.
Okay.
What if you notice there's a book that's damaged or is in bad shape? Is there a way to mark it or just make a note? Or
I would inventory it, right? And then I would put it on my desk. And then I would go through and I would weed those when I'm done with inventory.
Oh, okay. But inventory it, but set it aside.
I would inventory it and set it aside because on the chance that it's checked out to a child, particularly everything that went on with the pandemic,
right?
Have found their ways right back onto the shelf because some kind person went, oh, here's a library book. I found it in Mrs. Smith's classroom. I'm going to stick it on the shelf. And they stuck it on the shelf, but it never got checked in. So we can clear up that student's account.
Gotcha.
And particularly, I mean, our poor kids, they left in March And so many of them had books in their desks or books in their lockers or, right, and they just got dumped into the library. And I know at one school there were books that were they were just putting them in trash bags and putting them in a portable because they were quarantining them. But I don't even know what happened to those, right? So those might have found their way back to the library, and we want to make sure that we inventory them because it will check in anything that was checked out and clear up our students' accounts. I mean, we want to be as helpful to our students as we can. And inventory really helps us clear up their accounts, but it really helps us get that snapshot of our library so that we can see what's going on, right? So when you go to search in Tidal Wave, and if some of you have already searched in Tidal Wave, you'll notice if there was a book that was already on your shelf, it said, you may already have a copy of this. It really helps when you're adding things that you think that you need that may not be brand new, right? That weren't just published. And if you weed them and deselect them, right, that also helps you identify things. So let's say you weeded all your Harry Potters because they were, they were old, worn out, right? We weeded them from the collection. If you weed them from the collection and then you send your collection for analysis to Tidal Wave or to Mackin or to the vendor of your choice, it's going to tell you that you don't have copies of Harry Potter. If you leave them lost or you leave them, right, then it still thinks you have those copies. Oh. Your vendors aren't showing you the difference between lost and on your shelf. Okay. Right? Because Destiny sees it as it's been accounted for. So according to those vendors, it's been accounted for. That's why you want to delete your lost.
If you scan a book and it doesn't beep, maybe it was, I don't know, discarded or taken off with a weeding, but it's still in the library. Would that happen? I see some books that look like I thought they were discarded.
It can happen. People get confused, and anything with a library barcode they think belongs in the library, right? That's why when we weed them, we peel the barcodes off if we're giving them out to students. Or if it's got a Mylar cover, I used to cut them off, right? Because fiction books, if you've weeded them, you can give out to your students. Nonfiction, please, 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 please send to library media for recycling. We deselect nonfiction because it is old and out of date and has inaccurate information.
Right.
We don't want to give that out to students. But if your Harry Potter book is falling apart, but Johnny really wants it and you've weeded it, they can have it. I gave away more copies of Wimpy Kid that were falling apart.
Right.
And those kids were so happy to have those copies of Wimpy Kid. It's a win-win, right? That old, nasty, crusty copy is no longer in your library. And Johnny is super happy because he now owns a copy of Wimpy Kid.
I think that's definitely on my shelves because some things I think were weeded, but it came back. What will it show up as when you scan it?
It will say not in inventory. So like if it's clearly a fiction book and you're doing a fiction inventory, it says not in inventory. Okay. It's going to say not in your inventory. What I would then do is come over here and I would go to circulation and copy status. And I would scan it to see if it's in my catalog at all.
Circulation.
And if it's not in your catalog, it's been weeded.
Yeah, I do think some weeded books got given back because the barcode wasn't taken off. Okay, right. So cut it off, get rid of it. Got it.
And on Library Current, I'll go to Library Current so you can see. If you have books that you've decided that you're going to deselect during your inventory, if you go into the virtual Open Me First, there's a page for weeded library materials, and you'll find the directions for handling weeded materials, requesting the pickup of the materials.
Got it.
And the label for sending them to library media. All of that's on Library Current for you.
That's good. I haven't looked at that since the beginning of the year, but this has just gone so sideways. Now it's like, where was I?
There's a lot. There's so much to learn. That's why we wanted to do, and I'm going to do I'm going to do an inventory and collection development workshop for every librarian, and I will record that as well because I know everybody's schedule is crazy. But I wanted to run through the ins and the outs of setting up an inventory because I know how difficult it is and how nerve-wracking it can be, because you don't want to do anything wrong.
Right. I appreciate this. Thank
Oh,
you.
no problem. Any other questions about inventory that I can answer?
Just really quickly, when we will be able to receive this recording?
Probably within a day.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And I will send it to you guys. If you replied yes to the to this invitation, you should have a copy of it, but I will upload it to YouTube, and I post it on Library Current under, if we come down to professional development, I have a new Media Specialist Cadre page, and you can see different new Media Specialist Cadre meetings, but I will have that ready to go.
Okay,
probably by the end of tomorrow.
Perfect.
Marie, by the end of the school year. So if you start, I mean, you've got March, April, May, and half of June. So if you start now, you can do it little bits at a time. We don't want it to be unmanageable, which is why it's a good idea to start it sooner rather than later. And every time you have spare 10, 15 minutes, you can scan. I used to leave sticky notes for myself as to where I left off, right? And I would try to get to the end of a shelf, because I never wanted to leave off in the middle of a shelf, because then it's hard to figure out where you left off. And if you're lucky enough to have a media clerk, they can assist you with this. They can, once you start the inventory, they can take a Chromebook or a laptop around and inventory. So if you are lucky, like I said, if you're lucky enough to have a media clerk, they can absolutely assist you with inventory. But only media specialists have the permissions to start the inventories, because you make the decision as to what materials are being inventoried. School board policy says at least a third of your collection every year. Okay, but based on what happened last year, if you can swing a full library inventory, I highly recommend it. Because our kids left in March, some of them haven't come back yet. It's good to know what's on your shelf, right? And I will at a later date show you how to mark everything from a certain time earlier lost, right? We'll do that probably in the next week or couple of weeks, in the next couple of new Media Specialist Cadres. This is enough for one, but I'm going to show you how to say, anything that was due on or before, let's say, the end of last school year should be marked lost right now. I wouldn't delete all of those, because they may come back next year. I talked to a media specialist today that she told me that her virtual learners are always holding up. Look, miss, I still have my library book, but they haven't brought it back yet because they haven't come back to campus. So we don't want to delete those. We want to give those children a chance to return their books. So I would say we would delete anything that was marked lost on or before December of 2019, leaving anything from 2020 and 2021, right, still in our collections, but marked lost. Does that make sense? All right, any other questions I can answer? All right, if there aren't any other questions, I'm going to be repeating this session again at 3:30. So if you feel like you need to tune in again, that's totally fine. I invited you to both. I figured you would pick one that worked with your schedule. And then I'm going to upload this to YouTube, and I will send everybody in the new Media Specialist Cadre a link to the video so that you have it. There is also a video with the how-tos on inventory on our tutorials page, and under Destiny Library Manager tutorials, if you click inventory, there's a half-an-hour video about how to set up an inventory, but I just wanted to walk you through the process. If you want me to take a look at it once you've set it up, that's totally fine. We can set up some time for me to take a look at your parameters to make sure it's set up well. You can just shoot me an email. I can take a look at it from my end. It's not a problem, because you can always look at your parameters of your inventory. I'm going to come back into Destiny, admin, and inventory. but see how I can view my selections. So it tells me exactly what I selected. F to F, easy, regular, all sublocations. Right? So if you're ever concerned that you didn't set it up the right way, you can see that. If you didn't set it up the right way, you could finalize it and start it new. I did that with one media specialist. And when I did that, when we started new, we adjusted the date. So if I clicked start new, we adjusted this date because they had already started their inventory to the date of the one that they set up with the wrong parameters, so that anything that they had already scanned would be seen in this inventory as well. We didn't want them to have to double back and rescan everything. Molly, I know it's nerve-wracking. It's so important. We are here to help you. I am a phone call away. The best number to reach me at is the Google Voice number, simply because my office number gives me a ring and a half on my cell phone, because I have applied to work from home and I am working from home. So my phone transfers. I will get all those phone calls, but if I'm not on my phone immediately, it's almost impossible to pick up. The Google Voice number rings directly to my cell phone. So I will get that question. I will have 4 rings to pick it up. It's much easier. And I am in the office on Wednesdays. So, if you need that support. Something else you should know, all of library media, except for me, is back in the office. So Teresa, Francesca, Sue, and Zoraida, they are working in the office. If you have questions about processing, about purchasing, you can reach them by phone. They are working every day in the office. Like I said, I'm in the office once a week, but I am reachable. I will answer my phone, I promise. I am here to support you. I feel like I'm working more hours now that I'm at home than when I did at the office, and I'm much more accessible. So if no one has any other questions, I'm going to end the session for today, and I will see you soon. And I look forward to speaking with you and helping you with your inventory. Have a great afternoon.